It's very surprising for me that many product managers are not.
When you're a product manager, it can be a very lonely position. You're working with all these people, with the developers, the designers, the business people. But in the end, you're just the product manager that works with these people. Like the developers have the development team, the designers have the design team. Meetups are too short. Conferences are too big. It's very easy to go to a conference, attend a few talks that you can also watch on YouTube. You end up not networking because there's just too many people, and maybe you meet someone and you end up not going deep into conversations. That led me to create the Product Weekend, which is this weekend event to get people together, to learn from more experienced people, from product leaders, to help people grow in their own careers, creating these spaces, this community for product people and product leaders to share, to learn together, to become better in their crafts.
Is a topic you're passionate about? How do you define it, and why do you believe it's essential for the teams today? Joao Moita, thank you so much for joining this episode. I'm very excited to talk about your journey. So can you let us know about your background? I know you were, I think, an aerospace engineer and now a product leader. So please let us know how that happened.
Sure. Thank you for having me. It's really nice being here and sharing a bit of my experiences. Hopefully there will be something useful for your audience. So yeah, I studied aerospace engineering. When I had to choose, I didn't know exactly what engineering was, but I also didn't know in general what university degrees were. I didn't have a lot of, no one told me that when I was in high school, and eventually I knew I was good at math and physics. I like to build things. So I thought engineering was a obvious choice. And then there was a few reasons why I chose aerospace engineering. First of all, because it was a reputable degree, so it would keep my doors open in terms of what I would do after. It's also very complete, that it has a little bit of mechanical engineering, a little bit of electronics, a little bit of computers. So since I didn't know what I wanted, I chose the option that kept the most doors open, essentially. But then as I got to the degree, I realized that I didn't actually want to be an engineer. I realized that in my first year. But then I was like, okay, I'm already doing the courses. It's not that bad. It's difficult, but it's not that bad. And I also don't know what else I would study. So I decided to just continue. And then when I would finish, I would figure out something. And so then eventually, towards the end of my studies, I started to choose some optional classes that were already giving me some other options. I did, for instance, one course in psychology, in vocational psychology. And then my master thesis, even though it was in an engineering degree, I did it more about career development for aerospace engineers. So yeah, I tried to go more towards that human relations, human psychology aspect, which was always very interesting to me. And then when I was looking for a job, I was in between startups and consulting. Again, mostly because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I wanted to choose an option that would also keep my doors open. And that's what I thought. And I mean, I still think that's the case, that consulting and startups are good places for that, because you work with many different responsibilities, with many different areas of expertise, and you have a lot of times the opportunity to experiment and to start figuring out where you're good at, where you feel most accomplished, where you feel happy doing. And yeah, eventually I joined the startup. Then inside the startup, a little bit by accident, I became a product manager after a few months. And yeah, when I started as a product manager there, I also felt the need to connect with other people. I think a little bit like you, with having the podcast, also to learn from other people's experiences. And as I started talking with these other people, I realized they were feeling pretty much the same. They also wanted to be connected. They also wanted to share and to learn with others. So that led me to create the Product Weekend, which is this weekend event to get people together, to learn from more experienced people, from product leaders, and then to help people grow in their own careers. So I started doing that on the side, eventually then moved from that startup to a consulting company specialized in product management. And after a while, I realized that there was demand for more Product Weekend, for more events in more cities, in different formats as well. But I didn't have the time while I was working full time. So I had to make a choice, either reduce my working time or reduce the amount of things I was doing with Product Weekend. And so this was a little bit over a year ago, almost 1 year and a half by now, that I decided to quit and to focus 100% on growing the Product Weekend. So that's what I've been doing, creating these spaces, this community for product people and product leaders to share, to learn together, to become better in their crafts. And also together with my co-founder, we're also helping some companies in their product management, either through workshops or training. And yeah, I fell in love with the product management space. That's where I've been in the last few years.
It's very interesting because I know that tomorrow there is a Product Weekend Fest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was when I saw that it's gonna be a very busy week, I was very happy that you joined the episode less than like 12 hours. I know tomorrow's gonna be super chaotic, and
Yeah.
I'm recording the episode on the Friday night, so it means a lot to me.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to chat. I always try to make time to talk with other product people, or I would say like I was just talking about this today, that I'm in 3 bubbles, like the product management bubble, the entrepreneurship bubble, and the psychological safety bubble. So yeah, I'm very happy to always chat about these things. And yeah, tomorrow is going to be a long day, but I think I have everything sorted. So just a matter of getting a good night's sleep and being ready tomorrow morning to rock it. It's going to be a fun day.
It's I actually wanted to ask you more about Product Weekend. When did you start it?
So, as I said, it was when I was working in that startup. It was around May 2022. So over 2 years ago now. And essentially, I already had quite some experience organizing events. In my university years, I was part of this European student organization. And so organizing an event was something I knew how to do. And I felt the need to have this gathering where people could share. So it was joining what I was good at and I knew how to do with the need that I saw. So I did this first edition I was not considering turning into a business. It was just something that I enjoyed doing. But something I did that I think was very important was charge a ticket from the first edition. The reasoning for doing that was that I would not be in a loss. So worst case scenario, if I didn't get any sponsors or anything, the tickets that people were paying would cover the costs. And so that was the reason why. But it turned out that people were actually interested. We got companies sponsoring even from the first edition. So I was like, okay, there's something here to explore. And then I kept doing a few more editions since then, until that point last year where I decided to quit. And since then, we've organized throughout this year, end of last year and throughout this year, 20 events around Europe in 7 countries by now. Also aiming for 3 more very soon. And yeah, the concept is that it's an intimate gathering. So meetups are usually too short. There's not enough time to go deep into conversations. But like by the time that you're getting to an interesting point in the discussion, it's over and you go home and you probably don't see that person again. while conferences are too big and it's very easy to get lost in the crowd. I was just this week at Web Summit here in Lisbon, and it was like 70,000 people. So it's like everyone's running around, everyone doing their own thing. And it's very easy to get lost in the ocean of people. So at Product Weekend, it's always a long event, at least one full day, and much smaller. So the typical format, we do it with 25 to 30 participants. We also have the fest now that you mentioned earlier. That's going to be slightly bigger, but there's still the component of intimacy, because there is a part where everyone is in the audience, but then we split into separate rooms where there are specific sessions around a specific topic with experts in those topics. So in those rooms, there's just these 25 people again that create this classroom size where everyone can get to know each other and actually build relationships and learn together with the other people.
So just to understand it better, so you talked about two of them. One of them was around a full day, and then there's the one which is tomorrow, which is the fest. But I quite didn't understand the difference between the one for tomorrow and then the regular one, which you said there's around one day.
Okay, so there's actually 4 formats now. And actually we're in the process of like kind of rebranding and changing the names, but essentially I'll try to walk you quickly through the 4, so it's not also too boring for the audience. So there's one that's the most different, and I'll start with that, which is the Leaders Retreat. This is an event for 3 to 5 days, immersive event where people stay in the same hotel, or at least in the same city. People travel for that city. And this is for like CPO, head of product, director of product management, people that are already leaders that want to level up their leadership and share in this intimate group of other leaders. So this is all about figuring out how your personal values connect to your leadership style. What are some actions that you can do to improve your leadership and to become a better leader for your team? And that's an event that we're planning to run like twice a year. Then we have the classic format, which is the Product Weekend Circle. And this one is actually Friday evening and Saturday the full day. This one is for 25 participants. It has 8 speakers, which give 5 speaker talks around different topics around product management. So each event covers a bit of everything around product. Let's say that's one talk about discovery, another one about working with engineering, another one about stakeholder management, for instance. So we have this combination of topics. And then there's also panel discussion about careers in product management and one mastermind session. And this session is where people bring their own questions and concerns, and everyone participates by contributing with inputs from their own experiences. So this one is the Product Weekend Circle. Then the Product Weekend Fest. This is the one that's just one day. So it's from morning until after dinner. People get together in a bigger setting. So this, let's say 75 people, they have one panel discussion. In this case, tomorrow it's going to be about the future of product management with everyone in the audience. And then we break it into 3 rooms, each room with 25 people. And in this case, for tomorrow's event, there's one track around enterprise product management, another one around 0 to 1 product management, and the third one about high-performing teams. And then in each of these tracks, there's 3 speakers and 1 mastermind session. So in the same format I mentioned before. And then finally, the 4th format is the Product Weekend Ignite, which is for people looking for a new role in product management. So these can be people that are transitioning into product, but also people that are in product that may have been laid off, or maybe they are unhappy in their current role and they're looking for something new. So this runs through 3 consecutive evenings. The last one we did was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So always after work, so that you don't need to miss a day of work to attend this. And here you go into like your career vision, your career goals, like where you want to go. Then you reflect a bit on what are the options within the product management world, and how do my previous experiences, even if they are not in product, how they map to the skills that I need. And then the last day of this event is all about CV, application, interview preparation. And we give like a very actionable advice for the participants to find their next role. And then there's also a mentorship after the event, one-on-one mentorship with some of our mentors. So yeah, essentially these are the four formats that we have. So the retreat, the circle, the fest, and the ignite.
Which one is your favorite?
So the circle is the one that has most proven, let's say. We've already organized 20 editions in that format, so we're very confident in the value that it delivers. It's the one we've done the most. For the retreat, we've done it twice. We iterated quite a bit from the first to the second edition in terms of the structure and the value that it delivers. And maybe I would say that's my favorite because it's the one that's most intense. Like, I think it's funny. I was just talking this week about a KPI that we can have for the event, which is the amount of people crying by the end of the event. And there was quite some people that were emotional at the end of the event by the things that they realized about themselves by sharing in this intimate group. So this is a very, very powerful event that I'm very proud of and that we're very excited to do again next year. And yeah, then the fest and the ignite. The ignite, it went really well, but we still definitely need to improve some things that we already have for next edition in terms of the onboarding and the follow-up, especially that we still need to iterate. But I'm also very confident in the overall value of the event. And the fest, it's going to be the first time tomorrow, so I can't say that it's my favorite, but I'm really, really excited. I think it's going to be a great moment of getting the community together. Like, we have a lot of people, probably more than 50%. Not sure, I would have to check the numbers, but a big percentage of the participants are people that have actually already been to other events, not only in Portugal, but also around Europe, that are here in Lisbon for this weekend to be in the fest. So it's going to be a fest, like a moment where the community gets together and we celebrate the community of product management. So yeah, if I had to choose one, I would maybe say the retreat for the intensity it has. But I think all of them have their specific benefits and that make most sense for people in different stages and different moments in their careers.
It's very interesting. I think, let me go back a little bit, add more context why I think this is very interesting and very valuable. I talked about this multiple times on the podcast. I started as a developer when I was 15, and there were no AI tools like today. Mm-hmm. There were no code, which we talk about it today as well. But essentially, whenever I ran to a bug, you're just stuck there for quite a long time until I understood there's a lot of communities in the development. Mm-hmm. And your bug could be someone else's bug who another developer found a solution. So exactly. I started to slowly just get into these communities. It could be a WhatsApp group, Telegram group. Stack Overflow was the best place as well to find all the bugs. But then I started to understand that communities in the development world is a really, really big essential part of the whole growth of an engineer and survival of an engineer, not even growth. Yeah. Like, you get into that bug, you need someone who is more senior than you to tell you, right? And there's a lot of complexity that is not even on Stack Overflow. You can maybe talk one-on-one with an engineer. They will share about it with you. They will tell you more about advanced encryption they have been using on their product, but they will not come and write a blog post about it. Uh-huh. But then when I slowly transitioned to product world, I kind of didn't see those communities as a necessary thing. Until once you become a bit more mature in the space, and you understand that no, it's actually a really big part of the not only your growth but the next job that you will get, because I read somewhere around 60 to 80% of all the product roles are through referral. Where do you get those referrals? Not on LinkedIn webinars, in
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
communities and meetings. And then
Yeah.
I started to look at the different events and communities within European Union, and definitely one of them was yours, and I was very fascinated about it. Another one was Productized
Mm-hmm.
by
Yeah.
Andre, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I've also been actually Andre and Productize has been around for quite a bit. So I started Product Week in 2022, but Productize started in 2015 when there was no product community whatsoever, especially in Portugal. And Andrea was actually one of the speakers in our first edition. And since then, he's supported Product Weekend. And I've also supported Productize by being a curator there, and also mentoring a lot of people that are in this community. I also co-hosted or hosted for a couple of seasons the Productize podcast. So it was also my first experience with podcasting. So yeah, I'm very grateful for the collaboration we have, and it's been a really positive one that we've actually managed to create synergies and create value for the broader product community, irrespective if it's under the Product Weekend brand or the Productized brand. But yeah, back to your point, I totally agree, and I think what you mentioned in that it's for survival. It's really important to have these communities. It's not just a nice to have. It's really something that can make or break, that can make you move much faster, progress much faster in your career. Like most likely the things that you're facing, other people have faced or are facing very similar things. And when you're a product manager, it can be a very lonely position because you're working with all these people, with the developers, the designers, the business people. But in the end, you're just yourself. You're just the product manager that works with these people, but you don't have your buddies around working in the same things. Like the developers have the development team, the designers have the design team, but you as a product manager, it can feel very lonely. And it can feel that you are an imposter. That's a very, very common thing. I'm sure you've faced it at least at some point in your career, feeling like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I good enough? Do people see value in what I do? Maybe I'm doing everything wrong. And just having the opportunity to listen from other people that they are actually going through the same thing. It's not only you. You're not wrong. Maybe you can learn and you can improve, but there's nothing wrong, inherently wrong with you. And that's something that a lot of product people feel from my experience. And overcoming that is a necessary step for you to thrive as a product manager. And communities can be a great way to like fast track into that better position, into that new level of understanding. Also because like one of the reasons when I started was I was feeling that what I was reading in the books, in Melissa's book, in Marty Kagan and all these experts in product management, what I was reading in the books was not matching to the reality of my startup. And I was like, oh my God, I'm doing everything wrong. I can't implement these continuous discovery habits, or my team is not empowered. And it can be very, very daunting, very scary. And just being able to share with others and learn from other people's experiences is actually the best way, because I don't believe there's a right and wrong way to do product management. It's very context dependent, and it's very based on the specifics of the situation. And even though what other people are going through is not probably exactly the same as you are, you can learn a lot from these other people's experiences with these nuances, small nuances of the context. And that's the most powerful thing, and the value that most people get from our events as well.
It's very surprising for me that many product managers are not part of any community, or they don't even join any of the events. And I don't really know why. I will share an example.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I'm not going to specifically say the name, but there was a city I was very interested in attending events there. I went on LinkedIn and I think I reached out to maybe actually 200 product managers from very different companies of that city. I asked them, hey, John, you're good. My name is Amir. I'm curious that do you know any event in your city? I think roughly, I'm not exaggerating, between 150 to 200 people. The best answer I got was like, go on meetup.com. That was the best answer. And so most of them just told me, yeah, I used to attend like these communities and events, but not anymore. Not anymore. I don't know if this is something that happened maybe after COVID, or this is something that when a product manager reaches a certain level of like seniority, he just decides that maybe I can maybe attend one or two events per year, like a big, huge conference, and that is enough for me. So I
Yeah.
still couldn't crack this, like why they don't attend. Maybe you have a better answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Not sure if you have a better answer, but what I would say is that I think what I mentioned just now, that it's a lonely job to be a product manager, it has an influence there. So because if you're a developer and you have 10 developers in your team, if one of them knows about a conference, you will bring some of the others. So even if you're not attending, you know conferences that are happening because you have your peers right next to you that are going to these things. While as a product manager, you're alone. So you need to figure it out and find it outside the company a lot of times. And so that's one. I believe that may be an aspect of it. Then another thing is that a lot of the existing events and meetup groups and so on that existed before COVID stopped, obviously, during COVID, and they didn't pick up, or at least didn't pick up fast enough. And a lot of people were left without anything. That's actually one aspect where I think there was this huge demand for product weekend in the beginning, was that there was not many things going on at that moment. So that's another thing. And I think why people attend and then stop attending is that maybe they are not getting enough value from these events. And this is a bit our thesis that I mentioned earlier, that as we see it, meetups are too short. Like there's not enough time to actually have a meaningful conversation, or to make a friend or meet someone deep enough that you become partners or that you keep working together. And conferences are too big, and it's very easy to go to a conference, attend a few talks that you can also watch on YouTube. It's pretty much the same thing that they'll be saying. And you end up not networking because there's just too many people. And maybe you meet someone and you're like, hey, what do you do? Yeah, I work at this company. Oh, cool. Nice. Okay, I'm going to get a coffee. And you end up not going deep into conversations and really creating the value. So that's what we're trying to change with Product Weekend, is that people that come to our events, they really get value from it. They get insights that help them in their day-to-day. From the next week, we help them create relationships that become new employers, new mentors, new business partners. And we try to make sure that they actually come back. And we have actually on average 50% of people attend 2 events. And we have 2 of our events. And also we've had people attending, like, I think the record now is 8 events. We have 2 people that have attended 8 events as participants. And yeah, they keep coming back because they see the value. Even though it's a paid event, they still see that it's worth it to pay the ticket to get the value that they get from the event. So that's what we're trying to do, to make sure that people get the value that they want from the event. And yeah, and this is also a topic that's a bit sensitive sometimes, because when we're doing something for the community, people are a bit more maybe reluctant to pay. It's more like, oh, but if it's a community event, it should be free kind of approach. But we actually believe that the fact that it's paid, it makes sure it's a kind of natural selection for the profile that we get in our event, so that allows us also to be very confident in the people that we have, to be able to recommend them for roles, because curiosity is definitely one of the main skills as a product manager, and the people that join our events definitely are very curious people. So yeah, I think maybe they are frustrated with the events, maybe they just didn't hear about them because they don't have anyone close that also knows about these things. And maybe they didn't think that it was, maybe they know it's a problem what they're feeling, but they don't know that events are the solution for it. So yeah, hopefully maybe for some people listening, they will figure out, oh, okay, maybe if I'm feeling this imposter syndrome and not knowing what to do, maybe talking with other people will help me. And yeah, I really encourage everyone to go out there, whether it's Product Weekend or whatever other event it is, to go out, put yourself out there, open up about your challenges, and then listen to what others have to say and the experiences that others have to share with you.
Thinking about the communities and events like a product manager, and you have done a great job in terms of building 4 type of formats, more than, I believe, if I did the calculation right, more than 25 to 30 events, right? How do you think people should build communities? Where is the starting point, and how can they grow it? What are the challenges? Do you have any tips?
So the first thing is knowing who is the community for and who is the community not for. Having it very clear who are the people that are joining the community, and be very specific about that. Because if you're a community for everyone, you're a community for no one. So that is probably the main thing. First of all, understand who you're targeting, who are the people that join your community, and then think what are the challenges that they are facing. And then whatever it is, it doesn't have to be in-person events. It can be online groups, it can be online meetings, it can be a course, it can be just a simple chat on WhatsApp. Whatever it is, you need to think, what are the pain points? What are the challenges that these people are facing? A little bit like we do with products, right? Thinking, who are we solving it to, and what's the pain points, the problem that we're solving? And then come up with the solutions. And when it comes to solutions, it's the same product management thinking of, let's experiment small, learn fast, figure out what works and what doesn't, and then double down on the things that work and iterate. Like when we started, for instance, this event, we had a 3 days event. So it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But we realized we heard the community saying that they also wanted to rest in the weekend. So we decided to remove the Sunday, and it improved much more the value that people perceived from it. It was not so draining, and they got more value from it. And there are small things like in the way that we onboard people, that we were listening. Oh, I didn't know it was here. Okay, now we have in the, let's say, our playbook, that we send an email checkpoint a few days before. They have a form, like these kind of things. We didn't have it from the first edition. We kept adding and iterating on these things. So that's also the other advice. It's like, start small, learn fast, and you don't need to have the perfect solution when you start. Just start something that solves a real problem, and from then iterate, and you'll figure out what works, and also discover what your unique value proposition, your unique differentiation is. And the differentiation doesn't need to be anything like mind-blowing. Like with Product Weekend is these intimate gatherings, but it can just be that your differentiation is that your community is based in this specific neighborhood where nothing else is happening. So that's your differentiation. But yeah, you need to have something that adds value and that draws people to the community. And then you also need to make people feel part of the community and make sure that they are getting something back from what they're putting in. Either if they are speakers, you should give them visibility or money or whatever it is that they're looking for. You need to figure those things out, and you need to support the people that are contributing to the community and not forget them. That's a very important part.
And how, first of all, I think consistency is such a big key, and some sort of event or a podcast, right? That you are willing to show up on a regular basis in a period of time that you promise. For example, the Product Founder podcast, it's one episode per week, which we drop on Mondays, sometimes also Tuesdays, right? But everyone knows that's the day it's going to be out there, right? And I think it's the same thing with the events or communities, that even if it's a small type of conversation with 10 people, they know every week they can go there and the event is going to be, even the place, changing the place sometimes is also not that good. People get used to every, I don't know, Wednesday I will go to this room and we're going to be there and this person is going to be, that person is going to be there. So that kind of building, I would say in a way also a family could be an effective, people just knowing each other and spreading with word of mouth.
I think the consistency piece is quite important, but I would say what needs to happen consistently is that people know where to find you whenever they need, or whenever they want to check something, they know where to find it. I think that's a very important thing, that, for instance, in our case, that we have the events announced in a page, that we are present. Our main channel of communication is LinkedIn, so that we show up, we keep sharing what's going on, what's happening, how people can get value from our things. Like, we also have newsletter. These are all things that we've expanded on, but people know where to find us when they need support. I think that's an important one. In our case, like, we vary a little bit the frequency and also the format of the event and the locations, for sure. I think what matters is that the quality is consistent, that whatever is the thing that we're doing, they know that it's going to be top quality and that they're going to be getting the value that they're looking for. So that would be the main thing. What you mentioned about family, not sure. I'm not a big fan of the family analogy, especially when it comes to companies. I like more to think of as a sports team, that we're like in a family, you give unconditional love, even if the person is doing the worst thing in the world, you still love them and you still want the best for them. In a team or in a company or even in a community, if someone is doing something extremely wrong, extremely against the values or the things that you're doing, I mean, I don't think it makes sense to give them unconditional love in that sense. It's more about, we are here together to help each other. If you're not helping, if you're not contributing, if you're not getting value, you don't need to be here. You're not bounded to blood connection, and you can leave. If you don't identify anymore with a certain community that you're part of, you can leave. You're not forced to stay there. What I think is important, I think it's more in that line that you mean, the family aspect, is this sense of belonging, of feeling part of something bigger, of something greater than you. So that's, I think, what's important in a community.
Do you think what are like the top mistakes people do when they're building a community?
Biggest mistakes that people do when creating a community, I would go back to the things I already mentioned. So I'm not going to expand too much on those. The not having a clear target or a clear community member persona, let's say, that's one. Not being clear about what you're solving or what the value that you're delivering. Those things we already mentioned. But then I would say another one is thinking too much of personal gain, what I'm getting from creating the community. Like either if it's money or visibility, it's not about you. And you as a community builder, you are the one getting people together, making sure that the right people meet the other people that can benefit from that interaction. But you shouldn't be the center of your community. Eventually, it can happen, and it eventually will happen, that you will be able to monetize, to get some money from it, that you also get some recognition and personal branding. But that cannot be your goal. If that's your goal, a community is not the right thing to do. And what other mistakes? I would say trying to, so connected to this thing, being a bit greedy. And greedy, it can be on the what you're taking for yourself, but also on wanting to do everything. And if you try to do everything, as you know, also in product, if your priority is everything, if everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. So if you start a community and you want to start doing a podcast and a newsletter and an Instagram page and LinkedIn and an event and whatever it is, if you want to start everything from day one, probably most of those things are not going to be the quality that people expect or that will make a difference. So the ideal option is to focus on one thing that you do really well. And then when that thing is working and you can prove the value and people keep coming back for that thing, then you have the bandwidth to start exploring and adding other things, other value adds to the community. But yeah, trying to do everything is also another very big mistake.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I totally agree with those points. Now, moving a little bit out of this topic, I know psychological safety is a topic you're passionate about. How do you define it, and why do you believe it's essential for the teams today?
Yeah, I think psychological safety, and by the way, this is the topic that we're focusing on our podcast currently. So we're talking with a lot of leaders about it and going deep into the nitty gritty of how it translates to pain points and to also practical implications in the day-to-day of product teams. But essentially the way I describe it is it's this shared belief within a team that you can express your opinions, even if they are contrarian, that you can take risks, and that you can also be vulnerable without fear of negative consequences, either to your self-image or to your status, so that you can be yourself and share the challenges that you're facing, the things that you're seeing around. And the implication is that if you don't have it, if you don't manage to create the psychological safe environment, people will not bring problems when they arise. They will try to hide it until they are too big to hide and they eventually explode in your face. People will not be innovative. People will not take risks because they will be afraid of failing. So they will opt for the things that are safer, and that's probably not innovative and not bringing anything new. And also people will be unhappy. People will not feel part of the team, will not feel connected to the mission, to the things that they're doing. Eventually, it will take longer for them to onboard. It will take longer for them to start delivering value, and it also be faster until they either burn out or they quit for something else. So those are probably the main things. And then there's obviously more extreme cases that when someone hides something for the fear of being repressed or being punished, those things can turn into very serious problems that can eventually destroy the company or even put people's lives and people's health in risk in some contexts. So yeah, the negative impacts can be very serious. And on the other hand, if you have a psychologically safe team, as it was revealed by research from Google from 2015, from Project Aristotle, that psychological safety is the number one predictor of team success. Above diversity, above team constitution, above seniority, psychological safety was the thing that was making the most difference in the successful teams at Google. So yeah, if you manage to create these environments, you will succeed more as a team and as a company.
And can you give an example of this causes that?
The lack of psychological safety. Yeah. So for instance, you're a boss, and this happened to me in my first role, that I had this. He was the founder of the company, and he wanted to like control what the product and development team were working on. And he was saying, "Oh, we need to build this." And I asked, "Why?" And he was like, "Just because I say. I've been in this business for many years, so this is what we're gonna build." I was like, "Okay." Put my head down and keep working. Then another time I asked the same thing, or I questioned something he was saying, and he was shutting me down, and maybe in front of the team, not giving the space for people to bring up these questions. And that kind of environment, what eventually it led to was that I understood, okay, I don't have the space to bring up my questions, to share my concerns, or to try to suggest other options. So I might as well just shut down and keep just doing the work that I need to do, protecting a bit my team. That was also a big part. But essentially I was disconnected from creating a meaningful product because I knew I couldn't change the direction. And these kind of things, this is very common. So this is also you probably seen the articles and all the thing about the founder mode. It's a little bit like this, I think too much in the details. Obviously in some circumstances it can make sense. It's not black or white. It really depends on the context. But this is an example where this being micromanaging and controlling can lead to a lack of psychological safety.
Makes sense. And I remember you developed the ranch framework to address this psychological safety. Could you walk me through this framework and explain how teams can implement it effectively?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So essentially the idea and why we decided to create a framework, it's specific for product managers or for product teams. And the main goal is to give you the vocabulary to address these topics. So it's not like a magic formula, silver bullet that will solve all your problems, but will give you the words and the framing to think about these problems and to understand, okay, maybe we're lacking here, maybe we're doing good here, so we need to improve this and that other thing, and giving also examples of tools and practices that you can improve for each of those things. So yeah, I'll try to be brief, and also if people want to follow up, I'll be happy to share more. And we also have, again, the podcast and some things on our website. But essentially, RANCH stands for reframe, accept, notice, commit, and humanize. And what does it mean? Reframe is about reframing decisions as bets and insights as assumptions. So it's about acknowledging uncertainty and that things are not black and white. Then accept is about acknowledging failures and recognizing that mistakes and failures are a natural part of the process. And it's not like you're chasing failure, but you're trying to learn as fast as possible. Then the notice part is all about the acknowledging emotions and understanding that you are a human being, that you have emotions, that these emotions interfere in the way that you work, and trying to work with them to your favor. So developing this self-knowledge. And then the other part of this notice is after you understand yourself better, you communicate your strengths and your triggers, your ways of working to the other people, so that they can also adapt to the best way to work together. So reframe, accept, notice, commit. Commit is about being all aligned on a common mission and being able to rely on each other. So knowing that when a colleague of mine promises that they'll deliver this thing by the end of the week, I know that they will deliver. And if they will not deliver, they will tell me beforehand. So making and keeping these clear agreements. That's a very important part of the commit part. And finally, arguably the most important one is humanize. And it's about acknowledging that we are all humans, that leaders, especially as a leader, you should also present yourself as a human being, that you're not perfect, that you have shortcomings that you are working on, or that you need to let others know that these exist so that people can work with them. And there's these two aspects: being vulnerable. So by modeling vulnerability, other people will also be able to open up and share and bring up these concerns or challenges or mistakes that they have made, while they are small mistakes and they are not exploding in your face, as I was mentioning earlier. And then the other aspect is accessibility. So as a leader, letting people come to you, being open to new ideas, being open to people sharing their feelings and their emotions with you, and letting people know how they can find you, either through if it's through messages or through one-on-ones or through these team meetings that happen on a regular basis, whatever it is, letting people know how they can access you and giving them the space to do so. So yeah, essentially by having these 5 words, these 5 pillars, let's say, you can more easily think where you and your team stand in each of them and understand which are the things that are most important for us to work on.
And if, let's say, a team or someone in the audience is now just hearing this, they don't always, what I really like about this framework is it doesn't necessarily apply only for a company startup in the digital world, but it could be any other company as well in the different spaces. So if they want to go and use this ranch framework, how can they access it? Do you have any suggestion, or like a specific video on YouTube they can search up your name that you're walking through the entire framework, and what are the steps?
That's a great point, and it's something that answering very directly, right now we don't have anything like ready to use that you can go and learn from it. It's still something that we are iterating. So we've delivered this in some like both company context and conference context as well. For instance, in one company where we did this, we did a workshop, like a full day workshop essentially for a product management team. So people in different seniority levels, like from senior vice president of product management to the individual contributor product manager. And we had everyone in the same room, these 15 to 20 people. And we walked them through these steps, and for each of them made some exercises for them to actually think in their specific context, like write down what are the things that they commit to implementing from the next week. And we actually had very good feedback. We did this checkpoint like a month and a half after the workshop. And they said that team, like especially cross-team collaboration, improves significantly after having this exercise, and that they had like these tools and these practices that they could implement with their own product teams. So this workshop is something that we're very happy to do. If people in the audience, they can always find us. I'm guessing, yeah, either LinkedIn or an email. It's very easy to find us. You can reach out and we can discuss how we can support, either in person or remotely. And then we are trying to also develop a bit more this practice. So right now we're talking about it with many people, collecting further feedback, further iterations. And yeah, hopefully eventually we'll also have like either a course or some more structured training that people can access more easily. But right now we'd be very happy if you'd like to have a workshop delivered by us. It would be very interesting also for us to have a different case, a different context for us to apply the framework and try to make a difference in the way that you're building these psychologically safe environments.
Absolutely. And we're slowly getting to the end of podcast. Do you have anything to share? Maybe a book recommendation, a movie series, or anything that you have been working on that you want the listeners to check out?
Maybe just the one that I'm reading now. It's Strong Product People from Petra Villa. Yeah, she's great. We met at a conference in Hamburg this year. And I'm really enjoying it. It's a very actionable thing, especially for first-time heads of product or people jumping into a head of product position. And I think it's a very powerful book. Then obviously the classics. Melissa is always a great reference as well. And yeah, I can share the list if people are interested.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining this episode. It was a pleasure.
It was awesome. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation.